Welcome back. On this lesson, we're going to talk about cycles, posting frequency, and launch mode. So then you can understand how to structure all of that. So personally, as I said, I don't use scheduling like apps and things like that. I go with the flow, how I want and how I feel each day. So my frequency at times is quite high. Let's say if I'm launching something, and then it often drops and goes with what I'm feeling, how is my practice in the studio, and just becomes much more organic. And understanding these cycles, I think, is important because otherwise it becomes unattainable. There is that kind of like, oh, if you post every day or if you post X times a day, just gets really hard to sustain because I feel like social media, Instagram is an add-on on our practice, which is important. But if it becomes a burden, we are less likely to just focus on and do it. So I think that's very important. Go with what works for you. Yet when we come to launches, it changes a little bit in my point of view. So what I have here. So on these cycles, feel like you're doing what you have at the moment. We often are much more excited about sharing things when we have new things happening, when there's a new collection coming, when we're developing something new. So keep that in mind when you are actually posting and creating cycles. Then when it comes to launching, it's a really important thing to keep in mind to create a structure. We often gonna have the impression that we are talking too much about something, or that's like, oh, I'm repeating myself and all of that, but that's not how it's perceived by who is observing. So it's really important to remind ourselves that our experience as we are creating content is one thing. We see that video a lot, we see that picture a lot, we look at it a lot, and we kind of like, we can't even see it anymore. Whereas whoever is watching it just has a brief look or see once. Many times people see it and don't even know what you're talking about. So that's the importance of repeating yourself and just talking again. So when I'm launching something, a collection, a course, whatever that might be, I often structure in two ways. Kind of a 2 weeks, more or less, window. And on the first week, I often go a bit slower. It's what's called kind of a warm-up. So I give a glimpse, I talk about the idea, I let my audience, my followers, know that there's something coming. And often with my collections, actually even start way before. I bring people into my journey. So creating a ceramic collection can be a 3 months process. So often I already start talking about and I'm already warming up my audience into what I'm like working towards. And then, so like this first week, I'm going to create a campaign that often what I do is, again, I use AI since I have too many ideas and often I get paralyzed with all these ideas. So let's say for the last collection that was Cobalt Blue. So I got the whole idea, I had it all there, and then I said, hey, I'm launching my collection. I have my pieces ready. That's what they are. And I will launch, I chose the day. Often I also prefer launching on days like Wednesdays, since people already started with their week and it's not a weekend kind of thing. So Wednesday for me is a good day to promote something and launch something. But I put all the information that's relevant in details about what I'm launching. Who am I? We already worked on that, on the personal branding. And then I just say, hey, I want you to create me some ideas of what could I post on this first week to warm up my audience, and then how I'm gonna get to let them know that that's live. And then lots of ideas will come, which most of it I will adapt, select, and many I won't even use. But that gives me a little framework. And to me personally, it's good to look at a list and it's like, okay, from this list, what do I feel like doing? And then once I got that, and I already been like recording myself in the studio, taking pictures, it's not that by then I'm gonna start thinking what visually I'm gonna create. Throughout this process, I have already been creating visuals, which helps a lot. And then I started creating, I can create static posts, carousels, and reels, and keep everything saved and on draft, which to me, the first time I've done it, it was a life-changing thing, because what happens if we are under pressure of creating a batch of content on the day to get something out, it gets like frustrating. It gets that pressure, I just need to get something out, rather than like, oh, I'm in a creative flow here. What am I going to create? So that shifts a lot the energy. Then by creating all these reels, posts, and drafts that are all there, with the app you actually can create reels and keep on draft, which I find really good. So I can create the whole reel, I can put the caption, and then I would like label it as like day 1 for my launch, or day 3 and day 5. And I would go more or less with like, say, 3 to 4 posts on that first week of an active pre-launch week. And then I would go after maybe with 5 posts on that other week that I'm actively launching something. And most of it will be already like created and done. So then it makes it a very enjoyable experience. Because again, if we're thinking about other people selling our work via galleries, shops, and all of that, we need to communicate to who may want to buy it, that is available, that's coming, that is there. It's really hard for people to just go looking to see if you have something available. So that's what this process of launching really is. Telling people, hey, I have that, or hey, that's coming, and really engaging with your audience in that point. Because I feel like the most asked question is, how do I engage my audience? Well, it's going to change from person to person. Each person is going to engage with something differently. But the best way to engage is just expressing what we're up to, what we're doing, and telling really the story. Because we know that as creatives, our goal is not sales. We don't want to just sell things. We want to create things from our heart. We want to put beauty out there. We want to create emotion. We want to bring an energy of something that doesn't exist. And being able to pass that in your content is where it really clicks and where people really engage, by being honest, by being yourself, by putting it out there. Like, that's a collection that I created with all my heart and soul. I was inspired by this and that. Took me X time to make it. Or like, this texture gives me like, transports me to X. When I look to this piece, I feel like that. What do you feel? Like, really imagining that you're receiving someone into your space and interacting. Because I feel like when we think about online, becomes that thing like, oh, I don't know what to say. Just imagine that there is one person there that you want to talk to about that thing. What would you say? And then you can really naturally start thinking, oh, I would talk about this and I would talk about that. And imagine that that person is really good at asking. You know, you always have a friend that really goes deep, or you may even be that person that goes deep and asks the right questions and keep engaging on asking questions about something when you are interested. So that's the work that we need to break through in our brains, and like, well, I have all of that. How can I ask myself things that will engage me into creating stories and like telling my personal story in a way and in a format that I can transfer to social media and Instagram. So that's really the clicking point for me. So, and then understanding that things like time of the day, how many days of the week, and the algorithm, that's outside of your control. For sure, there are some times that often content performs better. Sorry. But I don't think that chasing that is where it's at, because again, of each 5 or 6 posts, one often hits. So just keep that as a reminder. If you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nothing happened, it's likely that is on the next one. So really keep going is where is at. And then like understand what is your flow, what you want to create. And changing that experience of burden into something that can be pleasurable really shifts it a lot, and dropping the pressure of how perfect it needs to be, how well written, how everything needs to be absolutely perfect. And I want to drop a few ideas of launch for different creatives, practices, and all of that might help you to visualize how you could easily, maybe even one day, create a full series of content that you can have either for a launch or just to keep talking about your practice and to really expand your visibility, connect with more people and all of that. So let's say even here in my studio, I could really just have my camera in the back there, my phone, showing myself talking to camera. And if I get 3 seconds or 5 seconds of this video coming from the side where the person can really see everything behind the scenes, and I can just put something, a caption for instance, starting a new project, and keep a little mystery on that, not even tell what is about. Or could be another shot coming from close that also gets a bit of my background, telling exactly what I'm doing. Found and Seen on Instagram is about to go live. So, like simple things, a few seconds can go a long way and engage people in that way. Even other behind the scenes, things that often we're like, oh, would I put that? That's part of our day to day. Opening the doors and getting ready for my day, creating a new collection. There's so much little simple things that we can put out there. Doesn't need to always be a finished product, a finished piece of art, or just what works out. So that's where it really shifts and becomes easy, because it's happening all the time. Even things, moving things around can be a reel, can be a story, can really get you out there without the need of really showing your face to camera. You can get so many angles of yourself. In the beginning of my journey, I didn't show my face to camera at all. I wouldn't ever talk to camera when I first started with my Instagram. It has been a gradual process, and by all means, it's still uncomfortable. But if you ask anyone that performs, singers, artists, all kinds of performers, they do still feel excited / nervous / anxious before performing. So why would be any difference with us? Because it does have a feeling of being performative, but becomes natural the more you do. So keep all of that in mind. The cycles are ups and downs. Don't set yourself a crazy goal. Just aim for something and drop the pressure of it, because in that way it will be much easier to keep going. And then think about the formats that you like. Think what would be easy for you and what would push you a little bit out of your comfort zone, and get it all out there. You can have what we call as well pillars of content. What are the key things that you're always talking about? What you would like to show, and then you can go back to that. For instance, for me, my pillars would be one, behind the scenes of my work. One other key pillar, visual, is my finished product, my finished pieces. And then the other big pillar is talking about the creative process, creativity, and the practice of techniques. So those are the 3 things that I'm often talking about. So I can just think from those 3 things, what would I like to talk today? If it's not a launch journey, if it's just keep going on creating content. And that just becomes second nature. It's not something that you think too much about it anymore. It just comes naturally. But anyway, I hope it all is clear. And then we keep going to the next lesson. And when we get to the practice, I think it will be really good for everyone to have this experience as if you were here with me. How would that be? And then you can see my whole behind the scenes into creating content from scratch. But I'll see you in the next lesson.